Hey everybody! G'day everybody, Nick Dingle here again for another Super Mario Bros. Tutorial in Construct 2. We're getting up to video 11 where we're going to make Koopa Troopa. Now, just a quick sorry that I didn't have a video last week. I just was hectic and unfortunately Koopa Troopa was just not ready for prime time. So, what we're going to do to start this video off is you're going to go down to the description of this video, click on the zip file that's there, which is the koopatroopa.zip, and you're going to take the folder out of that guy and you're going to put it in your graphics folder. So let's drag him out and we are good to get going. So what we're going to first do is set up the sprite, and then we need to make a few changes to our Goomba script, which I'll explain in a second, and then we're going to finish off with our Koopa Troopa scripting. So let's first of all start the Koopa Troopa sprite in the enemies folder. So right click, insert new object, sprite, and Koopa _ Troopa. Okay, click anywhere to add him and let's get this set up. So we're going to have this time around, we're going to have two animations. We're going to have the default and the dead, just like the Goomba. However, they're going to work slightly differently, okay? So let's just quickly set up the default to begin with. The first thing we're going to do is change the speed to 8, make it loop, because this is going to be his walking animation. And let's get those frames in there. So right click down here, import from a sprite strip. Okay, download Super Mario Graphics, Koopa Troopa, and there's my walking animation. Bring that in, make sure it says 2 horizontal cells, and you tick the box, and then you just go, okay, okay. Alright? And this animation's great because we actually don't have to do anything to it. That's it. We're done for the Koopa Troopa's beginnings. Now it's time to make his second animation. So let's right click over here, add animation, dead. Click on that and let's get the frames in to start with. We won't worry, the speed is perfect, we're not going to loop it. So we're going to import from a sprite strip instead, and we're going to bring in the dead animation. Now, tick, it says 2 and 1, perfect, and we're good to go. So, for those people who have played the original Super Mario Bros., you'll know that when you jump on top of a Koopa Troopa, he actually doesn't die. He just goes into a shell mode, and he stays there for a while, and if you don't touch him, he'll eventually pop back out. Okay. However, if you jump on him, he starts flying around and killing things, and that's why we need to modify our Goomba script. So what we need to do before we're going to do anything else is I want to modify the collision model of this guy, because if I zoom on in, you'll notice that this guy has legs and this guy doesn't. So it's actually going to be floating in midair if I don't change the collision of it. So I'm going to grab these 2 bottom points and reduce it by 1 pixel. Okay, and that's sitting on the bottom of the white. It's really hard to see, but the white is actually there on the bottom of my collision. And I'm going to make sure this guy has the same collision model. So what I'm going to do is right click here, apply to whole animation. Now the reason we do that is if you play the original, you'll see the feet pop out and flash, but it doesn't bounce up and down. So that's why we need to change the collision model like that. Second thing we need to do is change the origin points of all these frames from 8 by 8 should be 8, 2. So it's up here. And the reason we change that is so when you jump on his head and he shrinks down to a shell, there's no bouncing, there's no flopping around. That just makes it nice and smooth. Now here's the hard part. When you jump on his head, he waits a certain amount of time, and then his legs start flashing in and out for a little while, and then it comes back to life. So what I'm going to do is we're actually going to take control and let the animation actually control how long it takes him to pop out of his shell. So we're going to have 12 frames interweaving between this frame and this frame. So what I mean is we're going to go 0 at 1, 0 at 1, 0 at 1, all the way across, so we have 12 of those. And when it hits the last frame and it finishes, he's going to go back to default. Okay, so we're basically considering he was sort of dead, but he comes back to life. All right. Now, it actually waits a fair amount of time on this first frame. Okay, and we're going to deal with that in a second. Let's get the interweaving pictures going. All I want to do is I want to just right click and duplicate the frame, and then drag it across. Right click, duplicate, drag it across. And I'm actually going to stop the video here and finish it up so you don't have to watch me do all this stuff. So I'll pause the video, I'll be back in a second and we'll finish this up. Okay everyone, we're back. So we've got the 12 frames all sorted out, so they go from shell to feet and etc. They've all got the same collision model, that's why we did it initially, so we don't have to worry about it after the fact. All got the same image point. So how do we make it so this frame, this 0 frame, stays on there for a long, long time, okay? And we don't have to, add in a ton of frames of him in the shell mode. The way we do this is using the frame speed. So this is different from the animation speed. The animation speed is how many frames do we play per second. So 5 means 5 of these frames, so 0 to 4, would take a second to display on the screen. Okay. However, this frame speed here allows us to control how quick or slow these frames actually work. So if it's 1, it counts for 1 frame. If it's 2, it counts for 2 frames, and so forth. So what we're going to do is we're going to put 40. So it counts for 40 frames. It's going to take that long to get through the frames. And then once it's played 40 of this frame, it's then going to go to the next one and continue playing the animation just as you would expect it to. Okay? And that's it. That's our dead animations, or in fact, all of our animations and the sprite done. Okay, there's our Mr. Koopa Troopa. Now it's time to set up his behaviors, and it's the exact same thing as the Goomba. We're just going to add the platform and the same settings. So this guy, behaviors, add platform. And the settings are going to be 20, he's going to go left, so minus 50, 0 for deceleration, and no for the default controls. Please pause the video if you need to catch up, because I want to get into creating the event sheet and fixing up our Mr. Goomba a little bit. So, right click on event sheets, add our Koopa Troopa, and we're going to include it in event sheet 1 so we don't forget. Alright, and we're good to go. So, what I need to change about the Goomba is the Goomba now dies when Mario jumps on him, and the Goomba dies when he's standing on a block and Mario hits the block. However, he would not die if the Koopa Troopa shell flies across the screen and hits him. So what we're going to do now is change his code so we can actually add that ability. So if you go to Goomba up here, we're looking for the Goomba versus Mario section. So if you can expand that, this is where we're going to start all of our work. If we scroll down a little, this is where he dies when he's standing on a block and you hit him, he flips upside down and flies off. This is the exact same thing that happens when a Koopa Troopa shell hits him. He goes upside down and he flies off the level. So what I should have done in the last video, or not the last video, but many videos ago when we made the Goomba, is make these actions into a function so we can call on them as much as we want. So first thing I'm going to do is we are going to add a new sub-event to this group. So actually, no, first thing I'm going to do is edit this group. I'm going to call it Goomba versus everyone. It seems a bit silly to call it Goomba versus Mario now. So what I want you to do, click on there, press S for a sub-event, and we're going to go to our function, on function, and we're going to call it Goomba hit. Scroll down, there it is. And now the actions are going to be just these guys here. So I'm just going to drag them down into this event now. So they're there, and I'm going to delete those ones just there. Because we get the code down here, we can use it as much as we want. Okay, we don't have to repeat it all the time now. All right, and that means we can use it in our Koopa Troopa sheet as well. So to use this code, we actually need to make one little modification, because right now we're saying when you call Goomba hit, Goomba set collisions disabled, stop the animation, set flipped, and etc. etc. The problem is Construct doesn't know which Goomba you're talking about, so it's going to be every single Goomba in the entire game. So what we need to do is add a condition to here. So I want you to click on this event and press C. We're going to go to Goomba, and we're going to type in unique. Just the first words is enough, or first letters I should say is enough. And this action right here picks a specific instance by a unique ID, the UID. So what we're going to do is when we call this function is set the first parameter to the Goomba's UID. So all we need here is we're going to go function.param. So that's parameters, and 0 is the first parameter. So that's going to contain the UID of the Goomba we are killing. So how do we call this? It's actually pretty darn easy. Okay, go function, if you can spell, call, if you can still spell, call function, and the name of it is Goomba hit, and add a parameter. So so you can see it's already said it's accessed through function param 0, and we pass it Goomba.uid. Done. And it actually knows which Goomba we're talking about in this instance because there's a Goomba in our condition. So it'll only be that one Goomba. So I want to copy that, paste it there, and that's it done. Okay, that's our Goomba sheet fixed up, and our Koopa Troopa should be able to kill him. So let's go to the Koopa Troopa sheet and get him started. Because this guy is so similar to the Goomba to begin with, like he's walking around, hitting the wall and, going the other direction, we're going to steal a bit of his code. So the first thing I will do scroll up in my Goomba sheet and copy this entire group here. So I'm going to go Control C, go to Koopa Troopa, Control V. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is modify everything you see here where it says Goomba into a Koopa Troopa. Alright, and then let's edit the group first because it's now Koopa Troopa. Movement. And all we really need to do is go back a couple, find the Koopa Troopa, make sure that the action that is there, or the condition I should say, is the right one that's selected, and just make sure all those little images swap to a Koopa Troopa. So I'm going to stop the video, I'll be back in a second, and all my little Goombas will be Koopa Troopas. So pause the video now, get yours done, and then come back. So I've changed all my little Goombas into Koopa Troopas and we're ready to go. The first thing we need to do is actually modify this second event here, because what we're going to be doing when Koopa Troopa is dead, he just turns into a shell, and when you jump on him again, he starts flying around the screen. And I actually want to utilize the platform behavior to be able to do that. And with this condition, we can't, so I'm going to delete it. And that's all I need to do there. The second thing, we actually need to add some code to the movement. Now, if you've probably noticed, the Koopa Troopa is facing one set direction. So when he hits the wall and starts going the other way, we don't want him moonwalking. We actually want him flipped. Or mirrored, I should say. Not flipped. Flipped is upside down. So mirrored would turn him to the right. So what we're going to do for that, we're not going to add any code to this guy. We're going to add a whole new sub event. So click up here, go S for sub event, and we're going to do this for each Koopa Troopa. Okay, so I hope it didn't go too quick for you. System for each Koopa Troopa. We're going to add a sub event to that, and we're going to check which direction the Koopa Troopa is moving. So we need to check his vector X value. So we need, so add a sub event here, so S. So we go system for this one, and we're going to go compare two values. The first value is the Koopa Troopa's vector X. So Koopa.platform.vector_x. Okay. If his vector X value is less than 0, it's a negative number, which means he's moving to the left. All right. Which means we need him to face the original direction, which is not mirrored. So Koopa Troopa platform.vector_x less than 0. Add the action, which is Koopa. Just go to set mirrored and make sure it is not mirrored. So if he's going left, he's not mirrored. Let me expand these out. They're a bit small. Better. Now I'm going to copy and paste this event. Bang. And I'm just going to flip it. So instead of a less than, a greater than. So we're checking a positive number. He's going to the right. So like that. And because he's going to the right, we need him mirrored. So he's facing the right direction. Now with any good code that you write, you should always save, of course. You should always test it as well. So let's go to level 1. Make sure your Koopa Troopa is near a wall. Here. I'm just going to grab my tab. And just make sure. There you go. He's not going to kill us. He's not going to be harmful. He's a lovely little Koopa Troopa walking around. Now the one thing I didn't check actually was I didn't check what layer he's on. And he's on the wrong layer. I need to put him on enemies. So please make sure you do that, people. I think Mario's on the wrong layer too. Holy crap. Wow. Okay, so with that done, we now need to do the bit where we've got Koopa Troopa versus Mario, basically. Mario can jump on him, and the Koopa Troopa can run into Mario. So I'm going to minimize this group. I hope you've got all the code that you need, because I'm going to make a new group. Koopa Troopa versus Mario. And I'm not going to steal any code for the Goomba, because this is going to be slightly different than last time. So what I want you to do is add a sub-event we're going to do when Koopa Troopa runs into Mario. So this is pretty easy. Mario, collision with a Koopa Troopa. Alright. Like last time, we need to make sure Mario isn't falling or jumping when he hits Koopa Troopa, because we don't want Mario bouncing on top and then getting hit because we're a cheap-ass game. We need to go to Mario, and we need to go falling and invert that. Remember, I is the shortcut for that on the keyboard. Mario, and we're going to go to jumping. And we're going to invert that as well. Okay, so if Mario hits the Koopa Troopa and he's not falling or jumping, then we're simply going to go function, call, function, hit. So just like we did in the Goomba, we're reusing that code again, because it just makes our life so much easier. So what about when Mario lands on top of the Koopa Troopa? So another sub-event for group number 9, where Mario collides with the Koopa Troopa. Alright, he must be falling. So let's add another condition. So We go, wait a minute, what am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing? Mario is falling. Sorry about that, people. So when Mario hits a Koopa Troopa and he's falling, we also need to check if Koopa Troopa is just walking around. Okay? So we are going to add another condition with the C key. We're going to go to the Koopa Troopa. We're going to check if he's playing the default animation, which means he'd just be walking around. He's not dead. We'll worry about the dead stuff later. Next thing is let's add in all the action. So we're going to send Mario up in the air. So Mario, set his vector Y because that's going to send him up in the air. I like -300. If you don't, you can change it to whatever number you like. We're then going to stop the Koopa Troopa moving. We're then going to set his animation to dead. So let's stop moving him. Koopa Troopa, acceleration 0, so he can't move. That'll mean that our key right press won't do anything. Koopa Troopa, let's set his vector X to 0, so he'll stop moving. And let's set the Koopa Troopa's animation. Set animation to dead. Alright, save. Let's run it. We're going to test both of these. So we're going to test the death and jumping on top of them. There we go. Refresh. Let's quickly jump on top of him. Bloop. There we go. And I die because I haven't finished the code just yet. Okay. So what we're going to do now, people, is we are going to set up the thing so when we jump on top of the shell, he moves around. Actually, no, I'm getting ahead of myself. We should do it so when the animation finishes for the Koopa Troopa, he pops back up. Okay? So we're going to add a whole new group. I'm going to minimize this one because it's getting in the way. Make a new group. Call it Koopa Troopa Shell. So the idea is the Koopa Troopa comes back to life when the dead animation finishes. So this is really bloody easy. So I want you to add a sub-event to this guy. We're going to go to Koopa, and we're going to go finished. And we're going to go this one here, on an animation has finished. And we're going to go dead. So when the dead animation finishes, we're going to bring him back to life. So that's going back to the walking animation. So let's add the action for that. Koopa, set animation to default. Make sure it says beginning. You'll start playing at the beginning. We're going to quickly add a sub-event because we need to know which direction he's going to move in. Is he going to move left or is he going to move right? All right. How do we know that? He's going to move right if he's mirrored. He's going to move left if he's not mirrored. Simple as that. So let's add a sub-event to this guy. We're going to Koopa. We're checking if he's mirrored. If he's mirrored, he's going to the right. So let's set his acceleration to 50 and set his vector X to 50. All right. And what I'm going to do is add an else to this. So right click and click else, or you can just press X if you prefer. And we're going to go Koopa Troopa, acceleration, that's opacity, not acceleration, -50. Same thing with vector X, Koopa, vector X, -50. All right. Oh, and the last thing I want to do, sorry, I want to add another action up here. And this is actually for in the future when we do the next part, okay? I'll need this action. And I want to set the Koopa Troopa's max speed back to 20. Because when we land on the shell, we're actually going to be changing his max speed. So please pause the video if you need to, because I'm going to test this and we're going to make sure he works. Bloop. And just wait a little bit. We're going to be pretty patient because it's a fairly long animation to begin with. And hopefully see his feet start popping out soon. There it is. There you go. So that bit's done. Now we need the bit where Mario jumps on top of him. And this is the bit that slowed the video down from last week, okay? This is the bit I had a bit of trouble with. And hopefully this works pretty well. I tested it pretty thoroughly and it seemed to work well to me. So let's add a sub-event to this group here. We're going to check if Mario jumps on top of him again. Okay, so we're going to go Mario. Same thing that we did in the versus Mario one. We're going to check if he collides with the Koopa Troopa. We're also going to check if Mario's falling. So Mario this time, falling. Finally, we need to know if the Koopa Troopa is in the dead animation. So we're going to add another event, Koopa Troopa, playing dead. So if he's playing dead, that just sounds weird. But anyway, so if he is, then what we're going to do is we are going to, oh my gosh, we're going to set Mario flying back up in the air. And then we need to check which direction we're going to fire this shell. So let's go Mario. Let's go vector Y equals -300. All right, and with that done, we need to move on to checking whether or not he is actually moving. Because when you jump on him the first time, he starts flying. And you jump at him the second time, he stops. So what we're going to do is add another sub-event. Lots of sub-events in this video, everybody. And we're going to check if Koopa Troopa is moving or not. We want to check if he's not moving, but let's go Koopa. Just type in moving. And we're going to invert this condition. Do it. Duh. Okay, so if he's not moving, then we're going to send him moving. So first of all, we need to change his max speed because he's really slow otherwise to 120. I found that a pretty good number. We're also going to stop his death animation so he doesn't, for some reason, come back to life while he's flying around the stage. The next thing is a sub-event to this guy to figure out which direction to fire Mr. Koopa Troopa. Similar to this up here. We're just going to copy this code right here, paste it here, and I'm going to drag it on top of this platform is not moving condition. Okay? But what I'm going to do is change the numbers to 120 and minus 120. So quickly double click 120, 120, minus 120, minus 120. Okay. Now, this is all going to happen when you hit the Koopa Troopa. He's going to up his speed, he's going to stop animating, and then he's going to start flying left or right, depending on which way he's facing. Okay? However, if he is moving and we land on top of him, he needs to stop. Okay? So I'm going to add an else to this guy. So you can go add else if you want, or press the X key as always. So it might look confusing, but this else belongs to this guy, this else belongs to this guy. So let's add a couple of actions to stop the Koopa Troopa moving. So Koopa, let's set his vector X to 0. Okay? And then finally, let's start his animation again, because if he's sitting still, he should be able to come back to life. And we need to start from the beginning. Okay? Righto. That is almost it done. So this is pretty much the entire shell thing done. So let's save it, give it a test as always. So I should be able to land on him and send him flying. Woohoo! And land on him again to stop him. Oh, he's stuck. Not good. Oh well. That's what I get for construct. Okay. So it's only happening rarely. Sorry about that, people. But anyway, so we need to move on to the next bit, which is the shell while it's flying around should kill Goombas. So we're going to add a sub-event to the shell bit. Okay? You know, I could probably make a whole new group for it. In fact, no, let's make a whole new group. Let's right-click and go add group, Koopa Troopa versus Goomba, because why not? There is also the occasion when a Goomba shell, or Koopa Troopa shell, I should say, hits an item box that it sets it off. But I'm not going to do that in this video. I'm going to leave it up to you. So I'm going to add a sub-event to here. We're going to check if Mr. Koopa Troopa collides with a Goomba. So collision with a Goomba. We're going to add a second condition to see if he's dead, because that'll mean he's a shell. Whoops. Playing. Dead. And finally, if he's moving, because you don't want a shell that's just sitting there killing bloody Goombas. So, moving. If he is, we're going to call the Goomba hit. So function, call function, Goomba hit with the parameter of the Goombas.uid. Alright. So, to test this out, I'm going to drag my Goomba here. I'm going to move Mario so he doesn't die straight away. I might put him up here on the ledge. Okay, let's test it out. Make sure it works. Brilliant. Alright, hope you've enjoyed the video, everybody. Could you like, subscribe, and comment down the bottom, because I'd love to hear from you. But for the moment, it's Dingle out. I'll see you in the next video, everybody, for Super Mario Bros. Catch ya.